Hey everyone, my name's Darren. I'm just going to put a bit of soft music in the background because it helps me think of the story that I'm going to tell you. Many years ago, I had a sister named Karina that I still think about every day. Unfortunately, in 1986, she passed away on the operating table for heart surgery. I was told that basically she had pretty much the similar heart surgery as my son, which is called truncus. Not a day goes by where I don't think about her, say hello to her, and ask her to look over my son. Many years later, well, before I get into that, when I was born before Karina in 1981. When I came into the world, I was born blue because of my plumbing in my heart was all complex and not going how it should be going. My surgery was, my heart condition is called tetralogy fellow, which is your aorta valve. My son's heart condition is truncus, and that's your pulmonary valve to your lungs. I've realised at the age of 42 that I have quite a very big medical story to share and to tell. It's not easy at times. It has been an emotional ride on a number of levels. When I was on the operating table, Mum used to tell me the story, and she still does every now and then. And she said, "You were born blue, so we had to fly you from Tamworth down to Camperdown Hospital, the old one, I believe, which is apparently no longer there. I had to have emergency heart surgery. I was on the point of being dead, basically. And the doctor said, honestly, hold his hand, say last prayers, do whatever you need to, because I don't think he's going to make it." Apparently, Mum went into the bathroom, and you can imagine she'd be in tears. And she said, "God, if you can do miracles, you show me that you exist and keep my son here." But she was a little bit more upset than that, and a lot more powerful, I could imagine. Anyway, she walked back in, and the doctors said to her, "I don't know what's going on, but all the levels and everything are coming back to normal. And he's actually stabilising." So that's the start of my life. It hasn't been easy. Getting older in my teens, I didn't do very well at school. I was bullied a lot through primary and high school. My amazing brother Peter used to fight all my fights for me behind my back. I didn't realise until I was old enough to understand. I'll always thank him for that. Always. It's a hard story to tell because it's hard to get the story out without being emotional. With my son and my sister and myself, we hold quite a bit of history for the heart conditions. Also, we believe that my sister had the same syndrome as myself and Jayden, It's called velocardiofacial syndrome, also known as VCFS 22q11. There's also 11.1 and 11.2 now. I personally don't want to read up on it because I personally don't want to know what else it entails that I have to learn and understand. And personally, it's not an easy syndrome to read up on. My sister came along before my son, obviously, in 86. She didn't live very long, unfortunately. Her heart condition and operation apparently was way too complex for the time of life. And we're lucky in this world. We're lucky what the doctors and surgeons can do now. Whether it's the heart, spine, brain, lungs, liver, you name it. And it's only going to progress and get better from here because of technology. Unfortunately, my sister Karina wasn't lucky. But, I guess things happen for a reason. One of the reasons, I guess, she can help the surgeons and doctors understand many years later how to perfect that surgery to save more kids coming along. Heart surgery of any type is a high rate of death, but as we get along with technology, that'll become better. I came along in 1981, then my sister in 86, and then my amazing son in 2005. Jayden Mark Smith was born on the 16th of August 2005. Unfortunately, due to some silly life decisions and mistakes I made in the growing up, I did meet him, but I wasn't in the first couple of years of his life, which he probably needed me the most. However, his mum did say it was probably a good thing that I wasn't, because there would have been so many times I would have got so angry in the hospital and I probably would have been banned from going to the hospital. So it was probably a good thing that I did miss out on some of the very, very tough times. One day when I get a chance to and Mum feels up to it, Jayden's mum will do some talk videos about the stuff that she can share. But remember, it is a very big story. Jayden, as I mentioned, as I'm going along with this journey of Jayden was in hospital for the first 3.5 years of his life, every day, 24/7. Mum never left his side. Mum was actually, if she doesn't mind me saying, which I hope she doesn't, Mum actually was homeless at the time. Luckily, the hospital, Children's Hospital Westmead, was so amazing to her, and they let her stay in the hostel full time, so she could be next to his side 24/7. And it did play a big part in Jayden's life for her to be able to do that. Jayden had his first heart surgery. I met him once, I think it was before his surgery. I'm just going to have a bit of coffee. It's a long story to have in your mind, so bear with me. Jayden had his first surgery on his first heart valve repair. Dr. David Winlaw was a surgeon, and he was the most outstanding, amazing person that I got to meet in my life. You know, there's a lot of reasons for complications in surgery, and you can't put the blame on somebody from a mistake that happens. I've learnt that as I getting older. Dr. David did as much as he could, and he did the best job. Without him, I wouldn't have my son today, and that's why I'd helped them 9 years ago doing a fundraiser for a heart and lung machine. 2.5 months, we raised 112 grand. But that's another story. Like I said, this story is quite big. My son had his first heart surgery repair. Unfortunately, they didn't realise how close his heart was to his rib cage, and when they, my understanding is when they cut through the middle to open him up, they accidentally nicked his phrenic nerve in the heart. That's a very important nerve, that one. That unfortunately made his diaphragm collapse, and his mum was explaining to me that it was working in reverse. So when you breathe out, he was backwards, basically. So that the amazing Dr. Windlaw actually went in and repaired that as well. Unfortunately, he's no longer at the hospital because he's moved on, and I believe he's moved overseas to a different section of his work. He was one of the most amazing people I ever got to meet. And I met him at the fundraiser I did 9 years ago with the help of Dr. Sellermeyer. Dr. David Sellermeyer brought him along as a special guest speaker, and I was almost in tears when I got to meet him because I finally got to say thank you for keeping my son alive. Jayden ended up because of the lower airway. Usually you have a tracheostomy for upper airway problems. Jayden, however, had a tracheostomy for nearly 14 years, which is an artificial airway in your neck, and we had to change it every week when I got home or whenever it got blocked. Because we got the training and the knowledge firsthand from the hospital, so we could actually do it from home. I honestly don't know how his mum stores all this medical in her mind. I've got a selective photographic memory due to VCFS, and I still have to learn a lot more of his story. Eventually we'll get around to it. You know, I always believe things happen in life for a reason. And if you're meant to be here, you're meant to be here for a big reason. Jayden is severely autistic, level 3 nonverbal. But it does not mean he's an intelligent kid. He's very smart. And he's extremely strong, even though he's skinny. Jayden has beat all odds. That's why Westmead Children's Hospital never ever gave up on him. Because his wonderful paediatrician, Dr. Ken Peacock, at the time, he said, Jayden has shown us that he's beaten all odds. He said, that's why I'll never give up on him. You know, he was also a very good paediatrician, a very good man. Have a lot of time and respect for Dr. Peacock and a few people from Westmead Hospital. Jayden was also on a life support ventilator for almost 4.5 years. It was a bit of a struggle to carry all that stuff around because both his mum and I were very big people back then. So we all we always had our own struggles, let alone lugging all the gear around. Battery boxes, suction machines, a life support ventilator. I had to buy a bloody pram. Pardon my language, but I had to buy a pram from Kimber Springs, I believe the company was called. That pram was $8,000. And I had a bit of a yarn with the company, and I said, how much to get it down here and do the demonstration, blah, blah, blah. And I had a bit of a laugh with them, and they said, oh, it's going to be a couple of extra $100. I'm like, I'm prepared to give you $8,000 without whinging, and you want a couple of $100 for a demonstration. I said, whatever, just do it. My son needs it anyway. Thankfully, we had a share company that sold, and I was able to have the funds at the time to buy it in full. And I said to my son, I said, Jayden, this is your first Rolls Royce, look after it. It was, the pram that was needed was because it had a tray underneath where he sat, and it was able to hold so much weight because of the battery and the ventilator and all the life support bullcrap that you needed. Would I change this story in my life? Probably not. Do I regret this story? Not at all. The only things I regret are the mistakes I've done growing up and not being in his life constantly from the start. But it doesn't mean that I did not think of him every day. Years later, at the age of 40, I got diagnosed with level 2 high-functioning autism. I was a bit upset and a bit annoyed, but then I come to terms with having that because I thought, you know what, if I have autism, it actually means that I could be there to help understand my son a lot better than anyone that doesn't have autism. When you have autism, there's nothing to be ashamed of, because most of us have been gifted a brilliant brain. Jay is very, very smart. He knows what colours are what because of a couple of videos we got to see in school, through school. He knows what you're talking about. He's a funny kid at times. You know, Jayden has been through hell and back through his journey of 18 years. But it doesn't mean that he's not a soldier or a warrior. He has fought and fought and fought. I don't know how, I don't know why, but he keeps proving people wrong. He also has what's called Instagram once a month. So people who donate blood, thank you from the bottom of our hearts, because you actually save Jayden's life every month. Because he has a medicine, what's called Instagram, because his immune system doesn't generate certain things. I'll let Mum explain that later. But he doesn't generate certain things to fight colds and stuff like that off. So he gets the transfusion every month. At one stage of his life, they took the transfusion off him because apparently they had to do it for study or whatever crap to see if they could actually survive without it. That was a roller coaster in itself. Within 2 weeks, Jayden lost 17 kilos from memory, and we started getting really worried. He was always getting sick. Things weren't really crash hot at the time. And I said to the doctors, I said, give him the Instagram back And I said, I'll guarantee you within the next 2 weeks after having it back, he'll put the weight back on. They said, oh, we can't prove that because the study hasn't been done. I remember that word for word. I said, well, fight for it to get it back. And I reckon, more or less, that it will happen. Anyway, sure enough, we got it back within the first 2 weeks or so. He put the 17 kilos back on and he was fighting fit again. Jayden is an amazing, remarkable young man. He'll always be my boy. Don't matter how old he is, I'll still call him my boy. Jay has shown the hospital a lot of strength, a lot of courage, a lot of wisdom, I guess. He's also ticked a lot of rare boxes, and he's also made a lot of history in medical. He's an amazing, amazing kid. He has this adult laugh, and he's like, and it's just so funny when he does that. It cracks me up. I haven't heard him do that for a little while, but it's when you hear it, you just can't help but laugh. He also used to do an imitation of a dolphin, and honestly, Mum and I couldn't believe it at the beginning when he started doing it, because it was a split image of a dolphin. How they go and all that. I don't even know how he does it, but he does it perfect when he does it. Jayden, I believe, is here to teach. He's taught us many things. He's taught us how to change the tracheostomy to keep him breathing. He's taught us how to change gastrostomies, which he's still got. He's still fed overnight. He's taught us love in a complete different way, in a whole new level. I want to take a few moments to say to his mum, Rhonda has done so much for Jayden over 18 years. She has put herself last constantly. She's done so many sacrifices to put Jayden first. She's been on her feet for many, 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 many hours on hand, like endless hours, especially in the first 3.5 years. Most of the time she would even sleep in a very uncomfortable chair right next to his bed in ICU. Most of the time you're not allowed to, but they gave an exception for her, I believe. She is amazing at what she does. You know, I'm proud to still say that we're good friends. You know, sadly, you know, life went its way, you know, and although I may not be with her, it doesn't mean I don't care and still love her as a friend and as Jayden's mum, and I always will. Jayden's very lucky to have her. She goes above and beyond so much for him. I honestly don't know how she's still doing it after 18 years. You know, this tune's actually a tune I wrote for her, the one in the background. But I'm just trying to share some of his story on an emotional level, you know, so people can actually listen. They can also take time to take it in Um, you know, just because some parents out there have a very hard struggle with their special needs child, we should never judge a situation. We should never judge one another, full stop. Nobody in my book, I believe, no one should judge one another, because personally you don't have the right to do so. We should just be kind and loving towards each other. There's a couple of music songs I really love. One of them's You Got the Whole World in Your Hands. That one basically means if everyone held hands in this world and we stopped all the bull crap, could you imagine what we could achieve? You know, we could fix up so many problems. That's another story anyway. I just wanted to take some time this evening, because I'm moving house tomorrow, to be honest. So I'm just taking the time to relax and do another video a little bit more about Jayden's journey and the history of my life. It hasn't been easy. You know, having disabilities and autism myself and a syndrome, it hasn't been easy growing up, you know, with family to understand you all the time. And it's not their fault. You know, life never came with a book, especially when you have this sort of life with autism, disabilities, syndromes, medical, health. Life did not come with a book. If it did, at least we'd have a bit of a guideline. But we all have to learn, and we all have to adapt and adjust the best way we can. You know, I'm very privileged and proud to have my son Jayden. I'll always be absolutely grateful and thankful to Dr. Winlaw. Also now Dr. Selamaya, who's taken over looking after his heart since he's 18. I hope that man doesn't retire anytime soon, because he's a damn good doctor. In my book, he's the best cardiologist that I know in Australia. I honestly don't think you can get higher than him. He's always been very humble to me and a good friend. I can ring him whenever I wish to have a yarn. If he's not busy, he'll jump on the phone and give me a couple of minutes. And bear in mind, he does big hours trying to look after all his patients. I don't know how he does it. Everyone, there's special people in this world. You know, you should never be ashamed of anyone that's different. You should never be ashamed of anyone that's got disabilities or Down syndrome or anything like that. And you should definitely never, ever make fun of someone and put them down, because you don't know what pain or struggle that they're carrying in life. Just take time to say hello to them. Take time to smile. You know, take time to actually listen to someone and ask them about their story instead of putting them down. You'd be surprised what you'd learn. I'm not perfect myself, but I try. You know, and we can only do what we can to be there for one another. But like I said, you know, to my son and his mum, I'll always be here for them whenever they need. I'll always do whatever I can. And that's why I'm running the story I'm running at the moment. Please keep in mind and keep the respect for Jayden's mum. She's very busy and she gets overwhelmed if people actually contact her and, message her or anything like that, because she's not used to a lot of messages and contact, like, calls or anything. Unlike myself, I can deal with it, but she gets quite overwhelmed. It doesn't mean she's not a nice person. She's a lovely person, and she's a lovely person to Jayden. She does the best that she could do. At the moment, as is, it's 8:30. She's probably degassing him, getting him ready for his nighttime medicine and feed. Sometimes it takes a good half an hour before she baths him at night to get his medicines and that ready. Sometimes she doesn't always have the time to even reply to me, but she does reply when she can, and when she sits down and, degasses him. He's got to be degassed for 2.5 to 3.5 hours every night before his meal. If he doesn't, his chronic reflux, you'll know about it if you try and cut corners. But I will leave it there because it's a half an hour video, and I don't want to go too long because it's a lot to take in as it is. But as I go along, I will share different things. But to all those people that have helped join in on his next step of his journey, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. I couldn't be any more grateful. And thank you to one of my dear friends who's always guided me and trying to help me. He's never given up on me. He knows who he is. I don't have to mention his name. But he knows who he is, and I appreciate him very much. Because if there was something my son really needed, and if he was able to do it, he would. But I do know people have a lot in their lives to deal with, and a lot of different things as well. Many thanks to everyone from joining in on his journey, as I said, and from also taking the time to listen to his talk videos. Feel free to comment. Keep the comments classy. There's no need for hate or negativity. The less hate and negativity we have in this world, the better, as far as I'm concerned. It'll be a lot more of a peaceful world. Remember the song, "You've got the whole world in your hands." Because when you think about it, we always could. I'm Darren. I'd rather be called Daz. And I want to thank you all for listening and taking the time to listen and watch me tell you about my son's journey. I'm going to see how far I can get this out, because it's also good knowledge and information and awareness that we can bring towards other people in the same boat. Over and out.